Josh of Inner Skilled, Integrating Presence, and thought I'd jump in here and do one of these thought process Thursdays. I haven't been able to do this or haven't done this in quite some time. So, welcome anyone, everyone, and in between. So, as you can see today, I'm back on this beautiful remote island in Denmark, or I would consider somewhat remote. So, and thought process Thursdays. So, when reflecting on this, other than saying so a lot, um, what came up for me was AI. And so if you're not interested in that, just click away because I know there's a million different discussions on this. I'm just going to brainstorm here with this one because it is creeping more and more into our lives and for good, ill, and otherwise, perhaps. So please chime in with your thoughts and your comments and your questions around this. I'm just going to brainstorm. So, what I did today for the first time that I have never done is paid for one of these AIs, and not supposed to mention names here, so I won't. But this is a generic thing, and what I justified buying one of these services with is the project I'm doing, and for many years now, I guess, or several years anyway, I've been wanting to do this text that doesn't have a translation, this spiritual text. These are the Buddhist Pali commentaries, and of all this time, 2,600 years. Well, no, the commentaries haven't been around that long, of course. I don't know exactly when, but it's been a long time. That's the original teachings of the Buddha, right? And less written down. But anyway, so there's these commentaries, basically, like Buddha Ghost and other greats, commenting on these amazing teachings. We finally have English translations of the Buddhist teachings in English, but still not the commentaries. So I just thought I'd get one of these AIs to just start ripping on it and then give it away free. And it would initially take a long time to do on the free version. So I just paid the thing. And so that's how I'm justifying this. And I have plans to cancel it now. So let's just talk a little bit about my own use with this, and then we'll talk into more wide-ranging implications and how this may affect spiritual practice. Um, everything is kind of an emotional level. Not everything. There's so much emotionality around this too. But keep that in mind as we talk about any kind of ethical concerns we have around this and use or not use of this AI stuff. So we have this platform here, which is kind of a refuge from AI, even though, from what I understand, they are using AI features in the background to enhance the experience, but they won't allow any kind of visual AI on the platform, or any kind of AI generated content, basically, and which is nice and it's refreshing. And there's so much what's called AI slop all over the internet now, and it's a complex thing. Some of these things can aggregate and present in ways that are palpable for learning and understanding. But for me, well, what I've been using it for too is study and research. So, what I've been using it for is asking it to research a certain topic that would normally take me months and months, and there's geese coming by here. Um, and then kind of get it distilled down or an overview. That's a little bit different from reading like an online encyclopedia article on a topic. Can go in depth and then can probe and ask specific questions and investigate using this. So that's one upside. Don't have to track down a lot of things and do things manually anymore. But the downside, of course, is starting. The biggest one is starting to be reliant on this, asking it for advice, and then eventually, if that conditions us enough, we won't be able to, or some of us, I would say, I would guess, won't be able to make decisions or as many decisions on our own without first consulting in AI to how to make decisions. I already start using this to make decisions on, okay, where are like the best pour over coffee places of organic coffee in a town that I'm going to that I've never been before, and then have recommendations instead of going to all the individual listings and things like this. It can do it very quickly for me. But then it becomes like, okay, where's spontaneity in discovery? And am I ever going to just wander around without doing this first, without looking at reviews, without doing research ahead of time. So that's one of the drawbacks here too. So I'm trying to weigh in the pros and cons of this. Another thing I got into was this agentic AI, where I can just have it rebuild websites that are no longer there. Just go to an archive of this website that's no longer available and rebuild it into a PDF and read it. So that would take me such a long time to do manually, like probably weeks and weeks maybe. And I don't have programming skills or anything like that. And it can just tell it and it just goes in the background. So things like that can be very helpful. Maybe they can be dangerous too. Maybe it's easier to do things we shouldn't be doing as well with these. And then we look at, okay, what are the data center implications? I mean, I don't have enough technical background to know the extent of the demand for these things, or the people with money, how much they actually want to use resources, and what they plan to do with it. So we hear these things about this race for super intelligence and how that's going to lead to, usually they roll it out as benefit first. Oh, it'll be so amazing. We'll get people to, I don't know, help them become smarter and better, citizens, or help break the code on cancer, or, all these different beneficial things. But what about the people who are using it like for greedy means? Like, I want to be more superior, more intelligently superior than another, so then I can dominate, control, and have more money and influence and power and do what I want versus whoever. And then that justifies my importance and my actions, because now society's become, of course, I'm extrapolating and theorizing, not theorizing, but like, if we extrapolate, this is one possibility amongst many, that now we've become so dependent on this way of life that it's hard to function without it. And so that justifies it continuing. You know, Another thing I was reflecting on this morning, in a beautiful surrounding like this, with very little activity going on in the outside world, we hear about all these horrors, and war and different atrocities going on. And for me, if I wouldn't read the news, I would have very little indication of anything like that going on. I'm not saying it's not, of course. And there is a type of kind of something going on in the ether, where there's a disturbance in the force, maybe we could say. So that we some of us that are more energetically sensitive, we can pick up on things like this. But as far as full blown physical conflict, on the scale of war, I mean, I would imagine that a lot of us tuning in here have the good fortune to not experience that on a ongoing regular basis. And yet somehow we get compelled to, there's so many things to go from there, right? We can go into gratitude for that. We can go into, okay, now I'm in a place to help. How can I help? And these are, I think, are helpful things. When I have the resources and the heart is okay, then how can I help with these things? What is my place in offering assistance? And it could just mean, being available to someone who is even remotely related to one of these things, or who knows, a million different ways. But then it can also spiral into, oh, how can I be so privileged that I can't, that I have it so good while so many other, and then feel guilt instead of celebrating our goodness and our good fortune, which we can do, and not get greedy with it, and look down at others and superior, and use these wrong forms of comma, or when they're not appropriate, saying, because of your past actions or their past actions, that's what they're suffering. So that is beside the point, I think, because it's all about now. What can we do now to make it different, to be of assistance? So I am really riffing and rambling here. I'm try to limit myself to 15 minutes. So I'm going to pause here in my musings and my thought processes, and just ask how everybody's doing here. If anybody has any comments or concerns or questions, and just wants to say hi, it's pretty cool too. So yeah, circling back to the AI thing now. I mean, I guess it's anybody's guess. I saw a video the other day. Someone's concern about how much water this was using for the community they're in to cool these data centers. I've heard criticisms of, the amount of resources and power that they'll use, that they're even going in and killing forest and things in order to build these big data centers. Um, I'm not anti-Luddite. Like I said, I'm using this stuff now for better or worse or otherwise. It's just where should it stop? And then we look down to the personal dispositions of how we interact with technology. It's accelerated so much um, in just my lifetime, where a lot of the rest of our day-to-day things haven't progressed on such a steep curve, or not progressed, but changed so dramatically. I guess it has progressed and digressed at the same time. We have things like the dark web and just different nefarious activity online too. So, but it's changed so rapidly and advanced so quickly compared to a lot of other things. But how am I using it? How dependent am I on it? One of the biggest wake up calls I had in recent memory is when I went offline for a whole month without any electronic devices. So turned in the phone, turned in the laptop, didn't have a tablet to read on, anything like that. So no outside communication either. And yeah, I didn't realize how dependent I was on it for my kind of well-being anyway, and with communication, connecting with loved ones, kind of a grounding sense in reality from like what's going on in the outer world. And yet when I turned it all back on, I really didn't miss anything. So what does that say about me and my tethering, in my well-being and how kind of dependent I am on that? And, you know, um, what is the process like to wean off or temporarily starve oneself from digital devices and connectivity? I mean, that's a dramatic thing. I mean, I've did where I turn all the devices off at night and put them in a different room because I the luxury and fortune to be able to do that, where I don't have to be have devices on to be contacted at all hours of the day. Some people now are have to do that. They um, they're required to do that, and other people are just fearful of what could happen if they did that even. So, I mean, we could start with just seeing how it feels and practicing with turning everything off. It's a little ironic here that we want connectivity and with good practices here, but it's also a practice to go offline as well. And now this platform, Insight Timer, has offline retreats as well. And I like the programs that are voluntary, that you can turn in your devices voluntarily. There's just so many things that we are now dependent on in our lives, and how much then we'll have to spend time catching up on things if we let things build up too much. So it's finding different strategies for dealing with these things as well. And of course, minimizing a thing. There's a lot of different strategies on that. I won't go into that now, other than to say a lot of the notifications people have on, that's very stressful, and those can easily be done without. So to wrap this up, I just want to reflect again on this AI thing and the ethical part of it, being open to what needs to be done ethically is on one extreme, no, this is not okay. Any use whatsoever is not okay, and we should not use it in any form, but that is kind of an impractical thing anyway. I mean, we could choose that for ourselves, but I think it's not gonna be practical, because of its already wide scale implementation and no plans to slow down anytime soon. So we look at the Buddhist precepts of non-harm, not taking what's not given. These aren't in the right order though. Uh, Refraining from intoxication, um, not engaging in illicit sexual activities, and then not lying. So I don't see why these don't apply to the AI sphere. Now, the interpretation and the nuances is where it gets challenging. But again, this is a practice, and these can easily be applied, at least start applying to AI. I think. So we keep this conversation open. And I think there's a lot of spiritual implications and deeper things people are claiming on what is potentially behind AI systems. Maybe not what we're doing now and what we have access to now, but in the far past or maybe even far future, according to some that's out of my pay grade. And I'll leave that for now. So with that, I appreciate you all joining and maybe well out there, and I'll catch you later. Bye, everybody.